Security breaches and hijacked data are on the rise, with an increase in phishing and ransomware attacks, according to a firm called Security Boulevard that tracks hacking data. Many of these cyber attacks appear to be from Russia and China, and no industry is immune. In fact, affecting SpaceX, Saks Fifth Avenue, Ring, government agencies, and even the U.S. Congress. Hostile actors worldwide have regularly penetrated sensitive classified data, and nowhere is at risk more worrisome here than in the cloud, where unfathomable amounts of data are stored, as many know. Excuse me. Now, to contain the growing threat, President Biden, the White House, promoting an initiative requiring cloud data operators like Amazon and Google to add new security layers, compelling them to tighten up their defenses against foreign intruders, toughening their minimum cybersecurity requirements. With us to respond to this latest plan and to assess the vastness of the risks and the threats posed to American national security and the jeopardy to business, large and small, is the man on your screen. That is Fred Fleitz, who spent almost 20 years at the CIA and is now a national security analyst at the America First Policy Institute. Fred, always good to see you. Thank you for your time for coming in.
Good to be here.
Let's talk about this for a second. On the surface, is this situation, cybersecurity, under control in your mind?
I think there's real concerns, and it's much worse than people realize. Western Digital has a system called My Cloud. It was shut down on March 26 because unauthorized third parties got access to it. Over a terabyte of data was stolen from Pentagon information from the cloud last year. It's a serious problem because so much information is in one place, and a bad actor, an employee with access to information, a phishing attack would give a hostile hacker or a hostile country access to an enormous amount of data it could exploit.
There's a lot of talk about the cloud. We mentioned this earlier, and if you take a look at the new strategy from the president, we'll read it in part. It says, quote, "The administration will identify gaps in authorities to drive better cybersecurity practices in the cloud computing industry and for other essential third-party services, and work with industry, Congress, and regulators to close them," unquote. So you're talking about regulations here, Fred. What sort of regulations, what would that look like? Are cloud servers at greater risk for hacking?
Well, let's start that you have to have good antivirus on your computer to start with. You also have to have your data saved in another location, an external drive or on the cloud, and it's really unavoidable to get on the cloud. But to secure the cloud, you have to have encryption, you have to have two-party authentication, and you have to have a reliable company that is aware of the cyber risks that will make it harder for these hackers to access this information.
All right, so that's the administration side, but President Biden also suggesting this, that he'd like to see the tech companies responsible for critical infrastructure held liable for online breaches if in the future they do not take the basic steps to protect their own platforms from cyber attacks. So essentially putting it back in their hands. So Fred, what additional steps would you recommend companies take to secure their own platform?
Well, first of all, the president is exactly right. This is an enormous threat. I don't think we understood it. And a lot of this corporate data is being compromised because employees have access to passwords that they're not protecting. There may be a disgruntled employee that would provide this information to a hostile power, hack with it himself. So, I mean, companies have to safeguard this information, safeguard access to basically all of their corporate secrets are in one location, and an enormous amount of damage could be done if a foreign power, a hostile power, had control of this.
And final question, if new security procedures, what we're talking about, are implemented by big tech companies, would users themselves have a significantly different experience on these platforms?
I don't know that users would be aware of what was being done in the background to prevent a third party from accessing information, such as what happened, as I mentioned, with Western Digital. But I think that users have to be much more particular about protecting software and making sure that there's encryption when they save their information to these cloud servers.
Everyone has to protect themselves, whether they're a large corporation or individuals. Great information to have. Fred Fleitz joining us live. We appreciate that. Fred, thank you.
Good to be here.